Hey everybody, how are you? Is everything fine? Welcome to my channel. Today, in lesson number 2, we are gonna learn the Portuguese alphabet, or in Portuguese, o alfabeto. So, if you're here for the first time, please subscribe to my channel and press the like button and share this video with your friends. So the Portuguese alphabet is very similar to the English alphabet. We use the same letters. So today I'm gonna show you how we name the letters in Portuguese and some basic sounds these letters make. I'm gonna also show you some basic rules concerning the phonetics, but I'd like to make it clear that today I'm just gonna show some basic rules because those rules can vary depending on the situation. And how will I know the correct pronunciation of a word in Portuguese? It's simple, by making mistakes. You don't have to be afraid of making mistakes and give up learning the language. Making mistakes is part of the process. So you make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes and you improve your language skills. And of course, I'd like to ask you to correct me when I say something wrong, when I mispronounce something in English. The first letter, and I believe it's the first letter in any alphabet, is the letter A. In Portuguese, we call it A. Letra A. So letter A, Portuguese, letra A. So letra A is a vowel. We're gonna see that in Portuguese, the vowels can have different sounds depending on the situation. Just like in English. For example, in English, letter A can have the sound A. For example, male. And letter A can also have the sound E. For example, apple. So in English we have different sounds for letter A. In Portuguese we're gonna have different sounds for letra A. The first sound that letra A can make is this open sound, A. For example, we have this verb here, amar, means to love, amar, and as you can see, as you can listen, the letra A here has an open sound, amar. You make with your mouth opened, amar. Letra A can also have this sound, a nasal sound you make with your nose, Basically, this sound happens when letra A is before letter M or letter N, and they are at the same syllable. For example, samba. Samba is a musical genre. It's very famous in Brazil, mainly in Rio de Janeiro, where I live. It's a kind of musical genre. So here we have letter A or letra A before letter M. So and they are at the same syllable. So letter A here we have the nasal sound samba. Can you notice the sound samba? Another example, manga. It's a fruit. It means mango. This word manga can also have a different meaning. It can also mean sleeves in clothes. Sleeves can also be manga in Portuguese. So here we have letter A before letter N, and they are at the same syllable. So we have the nasal sound manga, samba, manga. Letter A can also have a nasal sound when it has this mark above it. Here, it's like a little snake. We call in Portuguese, we call this mark tio. It's a mark we put above letters A and O to mark a nasal sound. So when it comes above letter A, this letter A will have a nasal sound. For example, pão. It means bread. Pão. See? The nasal sound. Pão. We don't say pau. We don't say with an open sound. Pau. We say pão with a nasal sound. The sound comes from the nose. Pão. Next letter is letter B. In Portuguese, we call it B. Letra B. It has the same English sound. They sound B, B. For example, bola means ball. Ball in Portuguese, bola. So the same sound as in English, B. Next letter is letter C. In Portuguese, we call it C. Letra C. We have to pay attention to this letter because it can have different sounds depending on the vowel that comes after. So before the vowels A, O, and U, the letter C will have a similar sound to letter C in cake, for example. So this sound here in cake will be the same sound in Portuguese when letter C comes before vowels A, O, or U. For example, this word here, cão, means dog. Cão. So letter C before letter A, the K sound, like cake. Cão. And notice the nasal sound in letter A because it has the chill above it. Another example. Here is a verb cortar. It means to cut. Cortar. So letter C before letter O, the cake sound. Another example. Cubo. It means cube. So here letter C before letter U, the cake sound. K. So cão, cortar, cubo. And before the vowels E and I, letter C will have a similar sound as the letter C in cinema, for example. This S sound. For example, cego. It's an adjective. It means blind. Cego. So letter C before the vowel E, it has a sound cego. Another example is cinema. It means cinema in English, or movie theater. So letter C before the vowel I, it has this sound S. But attention, we can put a mark below the letter C like this, a little snake below the letter C, and we call this mark the cedilla in English. In Portuguese is cedilha. So we used to call letter C in Portuguese letra C. When letter C has a cedilla, we call C cedilha in Portuguese. Remember that before letters A, O, and U, the letter C used to have the cake sound K. When I put the cedilla below letter C, the letter C will make a soft sound like cego. For example, we have this word here, açaí. It's a famous fruit from the state of Pará in the northern Brazil. So açaí, we have letter C with a cedilla below. So it will make a soft sound, açaí. Without the cedilla, we would say acai. Remember, letter C before letter A has a K sound, like cake. So this would be acai. To make a soft sound, we put the cedilla below letter C, açaí. Another example, março. Março, it's a month of the year. It means March. The same thing, we have the letter C before letter O. We would say marco, but to make the soft sound, we put a cedilla below letter C, março. Another example, açúcar. It means sugar. So the same thing, we put the cedilla to make a soft sound, açúcar. Next letter, letter D. In Portuguese, we call D, letra D. Letra D can basically have two sounds. So before the vowels A, E, O, and U, the sound is similar as the letter D in desk, for example. So this the sound, da, de, do, do. For example, dado, it means dice. Dado. So this da, this sound. Another example, deserto. It means desert. Deserto. Another example, domingo. It's a day of the week. It's Sunday. Another example, duvidar. It's a verb, to doubt. So before letter A, E, O, and U, and before any consonant, the letter D, we have the similar sound as desk. So dado, deserto, domingo, duvidar. And before the vowel I, it will have a different sound like G. So we say da, de, G, do, do. Alright, for example, we have the word dia. It means day. So we say da, de, G, do. But in some regions, people can say dia, like the letter D in desk. Because Brazil is a large country, we have several accents. So we can say this like dia, or you can say dia. It depends on the region. Here in Rio de Janeiro, we say like this, dia. So we say da, de, de, do. But you can also say da, de, di, do. Can you notice the difference? G, D, G, D. In Rio, we say G. In some regions, people say D. Next letter, letter E. In Portuguese, we can call it E, or we can call it E. Letra E or letra E. Doesn't matter. In Rio, we used to call E, letra E. But I think in São Paulo, for example, people say E, letra E. So it doesn't matter. The letter E can have basically two sounds, E or E. For example, we've already seen this word here, deserto. It means desert. In this word, we can notice the two sounds of letter E. Here is the sound E, and here the sound E, deserto. But in some places, in some regions, people will say deserto with the two letters E with the open sound E, deserto. For example, when you go to the state of Bahia, for example, people will say deserto. We have different accents. You can choose what you like the most. So you can say deserto or deserto. In Rio, we say deserto. So I'm gonna use my own accent, the accent from where I live. So to pronounce the word correctly, we must previously know the word. Just like this. We can say desert or desert. But sometimes it's easier to know what the correct sound is, if it's E or E. So when the vowel E has an acute accent, it will always have a E sound. For example, this word here, café, means coffee. Here letter E has these accents, the acute accent. So it means that letter E here we have the sound of E, café. Next class we're gonna see the accents, and we are gonna see that the accents in Portuguese, they are used to mark the strongest syllable, like here, café, and they also sometimes they can also mark the sound the vowel will make, like this. We say café because letter E has the acute accent. When letter E has the circumflex accent, it means that letter E will have the sound of E. For example, we have this word here, bêbado. It means drunk. It's an adjective. Bêbado. So here we have letter E with the circumflex accent, and it will have the sound E, bêbado. So here we have E, café, and here we have E, bêbado. The letter E can also have a nasal sound, just like letter A. When letter E is before letters M or N, and they are at the same syllable. For example, we have this verb here, empurrar. It means to push. Empurrar. So here we have letter E before letter M. They are the same syllable, so we say en, empurrar, empurrar. Can you notice the difference? Here is E, deserto. Here is café. And here is en, empurrar. Another example. Here, ciência. It means science. So here, letter E before letter N at the same syllable. It's a nasal sound, ciência. It doesn't matter if it has an accent above it, like this. We don't say e ciência, we say ciência. Can you notice the difference? Ciência. It's a nasal sound. And letter E can also have a different sound when it comes at the end of a word. And it doesn't have any accent. For example, we have this word here that means age, idade. When letter E is at the end of a word, it will have the sound of I. So we say idade, I. You can say idade. It's not wrong, but it's not natural. In a more natural way of speaking, we say idade. We put a sound of I at the end. Next letter F in Portuguese is F. Its sound is similar to the F in English, like face, for example. So we have, for example, you can have this word faca. It means knife, faca, or flor. It means flower. So it's the same sound. Flower, flor. Faca, knife. Next letter G in Portuguese is G, letra G. It can have two sounds. So before letters A, O, and U, it has a hard sound, like the word go in English. This sound G, go. For example, gato, it means cat, gato. So letter G, letra G before letter A, this hard sound, gato. Another example, gorilla, it means gorilla. Here we have letter G before letter O, so it's a hard sound, go, gorilla. Another example, angu. Angu, here we have letter G before letter U, so it's a hard sound, gu, angu. Angu is a typical dish from the Brazilian cuisine. This dish was carried over by the African slaves. It's prepared with cornmeal. It's delicious. So, before letter A, O, U, hard sound. Gato, gorilla, angu. Before letters E and I, it has a soft sound. Like, for example, like this S here in leisure is this sound, J, leisure. For example, this word here, garagem. It means garage. So here we can see the two sounds of letter G. Here before letter A, hard sound, ga. And here before letter E, soft sound, J. Garagem. And another example, girassol. Girassol, it's a flower. Sunflower in English. Girassol. So here letter G before letter I, soft sound, G. Girassol. Next letter, letter H, in Portuguese is H. Letra H. So when it comes at the beginning of a word, it has no sound. For example, this word here, homem, it means man. So letter H at the beginning of a word has no sound. We start the sound at letter O, homem. Next class, we're gonna see that letter H, when it comes together with letter C, like this, letter N, like this, or letter L, like this, they will combine into a unique sound. Alright, they can make a unique sound. But this is for later. Right now, today, letter H has no sound in Portuguese. Next letter is letter I. In Portuguese, I. Letra I. It will make this sound like the double E in English. C. That's the E sound. For example, igreja, it means church. Igreja. Letra I can also have a nasal sound before letters M and N when they are the same syllable. For example, fim, it means end. Fim. So letter I, the letra I, before letter M, it has a nasal sound. In, fim. So it's different. Igreja, a normal sound, open sound. Igreja. Fim, nasal sound. In, fim. Or intuição. It means intuition. Intuição. Letra I before letter N has a nasal sound. In, intuição. We don't put the chill. Remember the chill? We don't put the chill above letter I, letra I. The chill, it comes only above the vowel A and the vowel O. Next letter, letter J. In Portuguese, J. This letter will always have the same sound. It's the sound of letter S in leisure. This J sound, like this, J, J. For example, jaca. Jaca, it's a fruit. It means jackfruit. Jaca. See the sound J, jaca. Another example, jornal. It means newspaper in English. Jornal. See the sound J, jornal. Jaca, jaca, jornal. Next letter, letter K. In Portuguese, we say K, letra K. In Portugal, people say capa, letra capa. But here in Brazil, we will say K, letra K. This letter is only used for foreign derived words and for people's names. So it's not a letter very common in Portuguese. It's only for foreign derived words and for people's name. For example, not only people's name, for brand names also. For example, Kombi. Kombi was a very famous car, type of car in the 80s. So we have the word with letter K, la letra K, Kombi. Or for example, kamikaze. Kamikaze, it's a foreign derived word, it's a Japanese word. So we maintain the letter K or letra K, kamikaze. Next letter, letter L. In Portuguese, L. L, letra L. So letra L will have two different sounds. One if the letra L is at the start of a syllable, and another one when letra L is at the end of a syllable. For example, at the beginning of a syllable, lápis, it means pencil. So here we have letter L with a similar sound as the letter L in lie, for example, this L sound, lápis. It's a very similar sound compared to the English, lie, lápis. Another example, cálice. Here letter L at the beginning of a syllable, cálice. So it's the same sound as lápis, lápis, cálice. It means goblet. The Harry Potter book and movie Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in Portuguese is Harry Potter e o Cálice de Fogo. Cálice means goblet. At the end of a syllable, mil. It's a number, it means 1000, mil. When letter L comes at the end of a syllable in the speaking, we substitute letter L for the letter U and we say mil. We don't say mil. Remember, letter L has the L sound. Lápis, cálice. So the tongue goes to the upper mouth. La. Cálice. But we don't say mil. We say mil. We make a sound of U. In some regions of Brazil and in Portugal as well, they will pronounce the letter L like this, mil, mil. And you can say mil, it's not wrong. But for most parts of Brazil, it's unnatural. It's more common for Brazilian people say mil instead of mil. But you can say mil, it's not wrong. But it's more natural to say mil, mil. And what happens if letter L comes after the vowel U? For example, here, this word that means guilt. So letter L is at the end of a syllable. So it will have, in the speaking way, it will have the U sound. And we have the vowel U before. So we extend the sound of letter U. We say culpa. You can say culpa. It's not wrong, but it's not natural. We say culpa, right? Notice it's not culpa, it's culpa. Okay, we extend the sound of letter U. You can say culpa, making the L sound, la culpa, or in a more natural way, you can say culpa. Another example, this word here, it's a color, it's mean blue. So it's the same thing. We have letter L at the end and letter U before. So we extend the sound of letter U. We say azul. You can say azul. It's not wrong, but it's not natural. In a natural way of speaking, we extend the sound of letter U. We say azul. Notice it's not azul. It's not azul. We extend the sound azul. Next letter, letter M. In Portuguese, M. Letra M. This letter has basically two sounds. One, if letter M is at the beginning of a syllable, and another sound if letter M is in the end of the syllable. For example, at the beginning of a syllable, mundo, it means world, mundo. So letter M is at the beginning of a syllable, and it has the same sound as letter M in my, for example, in English. That same sound of m, m, you make with your lips, m. And when the, or another example, monstro, it means monster, monstro, the same m sound. Another example, amigo, it means friend, amigo. In Portugal, the TV series Friends is called Amigos in Portugal. They translated the title. Friends became Amigos. Here in Brazil, we call Friends. We didn't translate the title. And when letter M comes at the end of a syllable, for example, acampar, it's a verb, to camp. Acampar, here letter M at the end of a syllable, acampar. It has the nasal sound, and this nasal sound, it starts in the vowel that comes before. So we start the nasal sound here in the letter A, acampar, and we finish the nasal sound in letter M, acampar. Another example, this word here, sim, means yes, sim. Same thing, letter M at the end of a syllable, it has this nasal sound in, sim. Next letter, letter N. In Portuguese, N. N. It also has two sounds, just like letter M. One, if letter N is at the at the beginning of a syllable, and another one if letter N is in the end of a syllable. For example, at the start of a syllable, navio, it means ship. Navio. So letter N at the beginning of a syllable, it has the same sound as letter N in no, for example, in English. This n, this sound n, navio. Another example, anel. Anel means ring. Same thing, letter N at the beginning of a syllable, this sound n. And here it's important to notice letter L at the end of a syllable. We had the sound of U. Remember? Anel. You can say anel. No problem. It's not wrong, but it's not natural. Here in Rio de Janeiro, at least, it's not natural. We say anel. When letter N comes at the end of a syllable, it will have the nasal sound, the famous nasal sound. For example, mentir. Mentir is a verb. It means to lie. It's not lie as lay back. It's lie to tell a lie. It's mentir. Here letter N with the nasal sound. It comes at the end of a syllable. Mentir. So now it has this sound that comes from the nose. Mentir. Another example. Cantar. It's a verb. It's also a verb. It means to sing. Cantar. Letter N at the end of a syllable, it has this nasal sound. Cantar. And attention, it's very important. In Portuguese, letter N will never come at the end of a word. So we will never have a word that ends with letter N. Next letter is letter O. In Portuguese, O, letra O. It's a vowel. We've been learning that the vowels can and will have different sounds in Portuguese. So letter O will not be different. So letter O can sound like this. O. O. For example, this word here, amor. It means love. It's a noun. We have the verb amar, to love, and we have the noun amor, love. So here, letter O with this sound of O, amor. Letter O can also have this sound O, more open, O. For example, amora. Amora, it's a fruit. It's blackberry. Blackberry in Portuguese is amora. Now letter O has this open sound, O, amora. How will I know that I have to pronounce amora and not amora, for example? Actually, we don't know. We must previously know the word to pronounce it correctly. However, sometimes it's easy to know what the correct sound is. So when letter O has an acute accent like this, the sound will always be open, O. For example, óculos. It means glasses. Glasses that you wear to see better. So here letter O with the acute accent, so it has this sound O, óculos. And when letter O has a circumflex accent, we'll always have the sound O. For example, alô. Alô, it's a word some people say when they answer the phone. Somebody calls me and I answer and I say, alô. I think in English people say hello. Hello. Here in Brazil we say alô. Letter O can, as all the other vowels, can have the nasal sound. So letter O will have a nasal sound before letters M and N, and when letter O has the chill above it. Remember, the chill is a mark we put above letters A and O to mark a nasal sound. So for example, we had seen this word homem, means man. Here we have letter O before letter M. It has a nasal sound, homem. Another example, here, ônibus. It means bus, ônibus. So we have letter O before letter N, and it has a nasal sound. And notice that letter O and letter N, they are in separate syllables. That rule that I said to you, that the vowel and the letters N and M had to be at the same syllable, they can vary. Those rules are not rigid. We can have variations like this. The letter O here, it has a nasal sound, ônibus. And the chill, the chill above letter O, that little snake we write above letter O, normally occurs on the plural of the words that have a chill above letter A. How come? Let me explain. For example, we have this word here, limão. It's a fruit. It means lemon, limão. So we have here letter A with the chill above it. The plural form of this word limão is limões. It means lemons, limões. So now we have the chill above letter O. This is very common in Portuguese. We have a word in singular that has the chill above letter A. In the plural, we will have the chill above letter O, right? We are gonna see how to make plural words in Portuguese. Letter O at the end of a word, it can have the sound of U. For example, this word here, oceano, it means ocean, ocean. So here we'll have letter O at the end of the word, and this letter we have this sound U. Pay attention, oceano, oceano, oceano. We don't say, we can say oceano. It's not wrong, but it's more natural when you say oceano. Some people can say this letter E with the E sound. For example, oceano. You can hear some people saying oceano, or you can say oceano. Notice the difference, oceano, oceano. They are both natural ways of speaking. And letter O, we tend to make the sound of U, oceano. Next letter, letter P, in Portuguese is P, letra P. It has the same sound as the letter P in English, as in pen, for example. They sound P. For example, you have the word porta. It means door. Porta. So the same sound. P. Porta. Or pato. Pato means duck. So the Donald Duck in Portuguese is Pato Donald. And notice the letter O here at the end of the word, it has the sound of U, pato. Next letter is letter Q. In Portuguese we say que, letra que. This letter que, letra que, will always be together with letter U, like this. Alright? And these two letters together can make a unique sound or not. And this will depend on the vowel that comes after. Before the letters A and O, those two letters will have separate sounds. They will sound separately. For example, this word here, quase, it means almost. I almost did something. Eu quase fiz alguma coisa. So quase, here we have the letter Q together with letter U, as always, and they both are before letter A. So here we have these two letters sounding separately. We say quase, quase, right? We pronounce the letter Q as a letter C, for example, or as a letter K, and we say the letter U as well. So we pronounce Q. So here, quase. More natural, quase, quase, quase. And before letter O, we have this word here, quociente. It means quotient. So here we have letter Q, letter U together, and they are both before letter O. So we will have separate sounds. Quociente. Now we join everything. Quociente, quociente. And before letter E and letter I, these two letters will have a unique sound. For example, this word here, queijo, it means cheese. Here we have letter Q, letter U together. They are both before letter E, so they make a unique sound. Que, queijo. So these two letters, Q and U, they make this sound of the letter K, for example. And before letter I, we can have this word here, quintal. Quintal means backyard. Quintal. So letter Q, letter U together before letter I makes a unique sound. Quintal. Next letter, letter R. In Portuguese, R. Letra R. Letter R can have different sounds. When letter R comes at the beginning of a word, it will always have one type of sound. For example, I have this word here, rato. So letter R here has this sound h, as the sound of letter H in have, for example. This sound here, ha, ha, have, rato. Rato means rat in English. So when letter R comes at the beginning of a word, it will always have this strong sound, like the verb have, ha, ha, rato. When letter R comes in the middle of the word, it can have basically two sounds. For example, this word here, caro, it means expensive. It's an adjective, caro. So here letter R at the middle of a word, and it will sound like the letter R in rat. This r, this sound r, caro, caro. This feeble sound r, caro. To make the hard sound as rato in the middle of the word, we put another letter R. So we make a double R, just like that, and we say carro. It means car. So now we have two letters R, and these two letters R, they make this sound, this hard sound, as letter H, ha, ha, carro. So letter R can have two sounds. One is a feeble sound only in the middle of the word, for example here, caro. In another sound is a hard sound. It's similar to letter H in have. It happens when letter R comes at the beginning of the words, for example here, rato, and when letter R comes doubled, for example here, carro. And letter R can come at the end of the word. For example, the verbs we had seen. For example, cantar, it's to sing. So when letter R comes at the end of the syllable, we have different ways of speaking, of pronouncing it. Some people put a little air at the end of the word, cantar, cantar, to mark this sound of R. It's not wrong. You can say like that, cantar. Some people put a little r at this letter R, cantar, cantar. It's less common, but it's possible. Some people say this letter R here like the letter R in English, R, cantar. So that there are some cities that have this accent. They say cantar. You can say like that, it's not a problem. It's a different accent within Brazil. In Brazil, we have several accents. You can choose and pick what suits you the most. As I live in Rio, I will speak as a carioca. So I will say cantar, cantar. Next letter, letter S in Portuguese. S, letra S. It can have basically two sounds. It can sound like a normal letter S, this sound of S. For example, in English, C, this sound S. For example, sapo, it means frog. Sino, it means bell. So this the sound of s, s. Letter S can also have the sound of z, like house. This letter S has the sound of z, house. In Portuguese, this can happen as well. And it will happen when letter S is between two vowels. For example, here, casa, it means house. So we have letter S between two vowels. So this letter S will have the sound of Z, casa. When letter S is at the beginning of a word, it will always have the sound of S, always. When letter S is between two vowels, it will have this sound of Z, casa. But it will have to be between two vowels. For example, this word here, we say ganso. It means goose. Ganso. Now letter S is not between two vowels. It's between a consonant and a vowel. So it maintains this sound of S. Ganso. When letter S is between two vowels and it has the sound of S, we will have to add another letter S. For example, missa, it means mass. It mass with the meaning of the church, the church mass, the gospel mass, this kind of thing. It's missa. When we say missa in Portuguese, we are talking about the Catholic Church exclusively, the Catholic Church. It's missa. Here we have letter S between two vowels, vowel I, vowel A, but it has this sound of S. So we add another letter S. We make a double S to maintain this sound of S, missa. If we had here just one letter S, we would say misa. It's not the case. We say missa. And letter S can come at the end of the syllable. Letter S is the mark of the plural in Portuguese, just like in English. And it can come at the end of the word. For example, lápis, it means pencil. We had seen this word today. So lápis is a singular form, and the plural is the same. So we say one lápis, lápis, and two lápis, dois lápis. The singular and the plural are the same. So this letter S, we have different ways of speaking this letter S according to the accent. In Rio, we and the people from other states, they sometimes make some jokes. One of the marks of our accent is this S at the end. We say with this sound sh. We say lápis. Sh. In other parts of Brazil, they say lápis. Notice the difference. Rio, sh. Other parts, so in São Paulo, for example, they say lápis. In Rio, we say lápis. You can use the accent you love the most. As I live in Rio, I'm a carioca, I will say lápis. Next letter, letter T. In Portuguese is T, letra T. Letra T will have the same problem as letra D, letter G. Remember, we have a sound when letter G comes before vowels A, E, O, and U, and we have a different sound when letter G comes before the vowels, the vowel I. The same thing will happen with letter T, letra T. So before vowels A, E, O, and U, will have this sound of ta. Ta, te, to, tu. For example, teatro, it means theater. So we have here letter T before letter E. We have the sound of T. Teatro. And here letter T before a consonant. It also has the sound of T. Tro. Another example. Tatuagem. It means tattoo. So the same thing. Letter T before letter A. And here letter T before letter U. This sound of T. Tatu. Tatuagem. And before letter I, we'll have a different sound. For example, here, tio. Tio means uncle. So notice the difference. Chi, it's not ti. Here is ta. Here is te. Here is to. Here is tu. And here is chi, not ti. In some places, people will say tio. Tio. It's not wrong, it's just a different accent. Here in Rio de Janeiro, I'm always saying this. I'm teaching Portuguese in the way we speak here in Rio. I will not try to mock or to imitate the accents from other parts of Brazil. I will say as the cariocas say. So here we say tio. So it's ta, te, ti, to, tu. Next letter, letter U. In Portuguese, U, letra U. It's a vowel that will not have many variations. So the sound will be U, and it can have the nasal sound. For example, último. Último. It means last. Último. So here letter U, letter U, letra U, with the sound of U. Último. And here letter L. Remember letter L, when it comes after letter U, we extend the sound of U. Último. Último. And notice letter T before letter I. We say ti, último. We can say último. Remember, letter O at the end of the word can have the sound of U, último. You can also say último. Notice the difference, último, último. They are both correct. So in letter U can have a nasal sound before letters M and N. For example, único, it means unique. So we have letter U before letter N, so we say único. Notice, único. Here is último, U, and here is único, único. It's a small detail, but can make all the difference in the world. Next letter, letter V. In Portuguese, V. V. It has the same sound as letter V in English. For example, vaca. Vaca, it's an animal. It means cow. Another example, vento means wind. Vento. The same sound, V. Vento. Next letter, letter W in Portuguese is W. W. This letter is just like letter K in Portuguese. It will be used for foreign derived words and for people's names in general. For example, Washington. Washington is a state in USA, and it's also a city, is a capital of USA. When we write in Portuguese, we maintain the letter W. We write like this, Washington, just like in English. Washington is also a name in Brazil. I think people don't know that, but here in Brazil it's a very famous name, Washington. Letra W in Portuguese can have the sound of U, O, like this, O, Washington. It can also have the sound of V. For example, we have this name here, we say Wagner, with the sound of V, Wagner. Like the composer Richard Wagner. Next letter, letter X. In Portuguese, we say X. X. Letter X can have different sounds. It's not an easy letter in Portuguese. What I mean, we must know previously the word to know how it pronounced correctly, to know how to pronounce correctly. But we're gonna learn by making mistakes, as I said at the beginning of the video. So letter X, letra X, can have the sound of sh, just like this, X. For example, enxada, it means hoe. Enxada, so it has this sound of sh, enxada. Letra X can also have the sound of z. For example, exame means exam. Exame now has the sound of z. Exame. It also can have the sound of x, of cs. For example, taxi. So here, letter X has this sound of cs, taxi. It means cab or taxi. So letter X basically can have these three sounds: sh, enxada, z, exame, e x, taxi. Next letter, letter Y. In Portuguese, we say Y. Y. It's also a letter used for foreign derived nouns, foreign derived words. So it's not a very common letter in Portuguese. And we also use this letter for people's names. For example, we can have this name here, Yasmin, with the letter Y. Is a name of a person. So we use letter Y, just like letter K and letter W. We use letter Y for people's names and for foreign derived words. For example, New York, the city. In Portuguese we say like this, and we write like this, New York. Sometimes people translate this word new in Portuguese. New means novo, or nova in the feminine. Novo masculine, nova feminine. So people can say Nova York, very common. But New York is also common. And to end this class, end this lesson, today's lesson, the last letter, letter Z, in Portuguese, Z, letra Z, basically can have two sounds. The sound of Z, Z. For example, zebra is an animal. We write just like in English, zebra, but we say zebra. So here letter Z with this sound, Z, zebra. So letter Z will have the sound of Z at the beginning of the word, at the middle of the word. For example, ganza. Ganza is a musical instrument. It's a percussion instrument. So here we have letter Z at the middle of the word. It has the same sound, Z, ganza. When letter Z comes at the end of the word, it will have the sound of S. For example, arroz. It means rice. So here letter Z with the sound of S, sh, arroz. Here in Rio we say with our particular S sound, sh, arroz. In other parts of Brazil they say arroz, the accent you like the most. Here we say arroz in Rio de Janeiro. So this is what I prepared for you today. I hope you like the class today, today's lesson. You can notice that we've learned a lot of words, new words in Portuguese. Of course, you don't have to memorize all the words we have seen today because it was a lot of words. What I like you to do is to write down the words again with the meaning, with the English translation to help you memorize some of these words. They are important words. They are words that we will use a lot. But of course, we will see these words again in the future. So you don't have to be worried about it. So I'd like to thank you for watching this video and to ask you to subscribe the channel and to press the like button and to share this video with your friends. If you have some doubt, if you didn't understand something, please let me know. You can comment below. You can comment in this video. So thank you and until next week. Bye.